Jordan, good to see you. Today, we're going to talk through the 6 questions you should ask your advisor before you retire. Now, of course, you don't need a relationship with an advisor before you retire, but we do recommend at least making an appointment with one before you decide to hang up your hat. So, the first question to ask: am I financially ready to retire?
This is a big one. And many advisors, they just talk about, hey, you have X amount of dollars based on your expenses. Yeah, you're financially ready to retire. But there's so much more that goes
Yeah.
into that. Are you also emotionally ready to retire? Do you have a plan for what you're going to do after retirement? Because that's a big shift in your life from going for 20, 30, 40 years working 9 to 5 to all this freedom. What are you going to fill your time with? So, yes, you need to be financially ready, you need to be emotionally ready, and you need to have a plan.
Right. Well said. There's so much that goes into it. Our next questions will kind of lay that out for you. So, the next question to ask your advisor: what income sources will I rely on in retirement and how sustainable are they?
Yeah, so where your income coming from? Is it coming from Social Security? For most people I know that Social Security is not going to keep up with all their living expenses, and some people are concerned about the sustainability of Social Security. Me personally, for many different reasons we can talk on one-on-one, I think for the people that are retiring now, that generation is not going to be affected dramatically from Social Security, but generations to follow, I think they will be impacted. Maybe they have a good pension. Maybe they have income sources that are investments that are getting income from. But the key is you don't want to let the market dictate your income in retirement, because that could be a very stressful retirement, because nor you, nor I, nor anyone can control the market. And if all your money or your income for retirement is dependent on the market and the market crashes, that may not be the best retirement, and you only get one shot at that.
Right. Next question. I know this one is very near and dear to you. How can I minimize taxes on my retirement income?
Well, how I answer that is I ask a question that says, how are you tax diversified? And many people are like, what do you
Hmm?
tax diversify? What are you talking about? No, no. What do you have in your tax always account, your tax deferred account, and your tax free account? Because every different tax structure has some different strategies or different benefits from those structures. And many people that I see, they have most of their assets in these tax deferred 401ks and IRA accounts. And that feels good because you got a lot of money in that statement, but it's not 100% yours because you haven't paid taxes on that. So the key is you need to have a plan around taxes. How do I get the most out of my investments in the tax structures so I can keep more in my pocket and pay less to the IRS? So
Mhm.
you need to have a plan, and that might involve Roth conversions, that might involve different strategies, but to have a plan and be tax diversified is your best chance to succeed.
Yeah, Jordan, I'm glad you brought this up because this, more than others, makes sense to me. Why, when we say, oh, if you have $1 million in the bank, you can retire. Well, if it's all in that tax deferred bucket, that is very different than if that money's in the tax free bucket.
Yeah, $1 million in a tax deferred account, give some fluctuation here, but it might be only about 750,000 dollars. Where if you have $1 million in a Roth account, you actually have $1 million. Now, it's a
Yeah.
big difference there. So it's not only the dollar sign, it's the tax status attached to that dollar sign, which you need to look at.
Right. Next question: what, if any, adjustments should I make to my investment portfolio?
Well, as people mature, generally speaking, the more maturity you have, the more you want to take less risk. Now, that doesn't apply for everyone, but as you kind of accumulate those assets and hit that financial peak or that mountain, you don't need to take high risk in your late 50s and your 60s. You've already, in a sense, that you won the game, right? You don't need to be super aggressive. So they usually are more conservative in nature. They want to preserve what they have, they want to get competitive returns. So, generally speaking, if you just set it and forget it, and you're still very aggressive near retirement, and then the market free falls right as you retire or in the early stages, that could derail your retirement plans. And that's
Mhm.
actually technically called sequence of returns risk, when you need to take withdrawals after the market just takes a big dip. So we try to be proactive, not reactive, and align the portfolio for something you're comfortable with way before retirement, and especially as you enter retirement, so you aren't going to run the risk of being derailed by the next market correction.
Right. All right. The next question is: do I have enough saved to account for inflation and unexpected expenses? Those always crop up.
Those crop up. There's also market downturns. We have inflation, miscellaneous. Maybe you're taking care of a child. Maybe you're doing a repair in a house. Maybe you got to buy a new car. But that's why you have a plan. That's why we stress test all of our plans. So what if the market drops 30%? What if you need to buy a new car? What if you need to pay for this unexpected expense? Doesn't matter. If we stress test it and you're still okay, that should give you confidence that no matter what the world throws at you, financially, you are going to be able to withstand and you're going to get to your destination. I like to say we're kind of like the Hummer approach. We're not going to try to be the Ferrari and be the fastest down the road, but no matter what potholes hit us, we're going to get you to your destination no matter what.
Mhm. And then this last question is so important too. Do I have a plan for long-term care? 7 out of 10 people will need long-term care at some point. And if you don't have a plan, this can wipe out your savings.
This is not a fun subject to talk about. Nobody wants to get excited. Hey, I got long-term care. Let me tell all my friends, right? But it is a reality that 50% of us or more will need some sort of long-term care. And if we look at the cost of long-term care, it is staggering with the
Right.
inflation and the raising costs of healthcare costs. It can take a big dent, if not wipe out your nest egg if you're not prepared. Now, we all have car insurance. We all have homeowners insurance, but there's a higher probability we're going to need some long-term care in our life. Many of us need to be prepared for that. Now, I'm not a big fan of traditional long-term care because I think it's very expensive and you go through many hoops to get it. And then when you need to claim it, they make it so hard with all the fine print and filing forms. What I like to look as an alternative is having a specially designed life insurance policy that eventually we all will die, so it will pay out tax-free to your beneficiaries. But what if you get sick while you're still living? You can use that death benefit while you're living for long-term care. So it gives you a nice best of both worlds to really benefit and amplify your entire financial portfolio. So you're not forced to draw down assets. You can just draw down your death benefit while you're still alive.
Mhm. Well, Jordan, again, you can see how all of these questions and then your own answers are interrelated and can help you determine if you are ready to retire so much more than just having a number in the bank. So, if somebody wants to talk through these questions with you to determine if they are ready to retire, how can they reach you?
Yeah, they can call our main number at 847-499-3454. Our mission is to help you live today while we plan for your tomorrow.
Well said. All right. And just to remind everybody, we have a QR code coming up at the end of this. Jordan, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Aaron.